Hello everyone, and welcome to the Legend of Korra characters ranking video I promised you all. I found a nice tier list here. It didn't have all the characters I wanted, so I had to add a few. This format is actually quite nice. You can't even tell which ones I added, even though I didn't touch up any of the images in an editing program to make them fit properly. But it's Aiwei, the brothers, Gazan, who was missing for some reason, Zhao, Wan Tong, that other police chief, I think his name is Saikon, and I think that's it. So hopefully I didn't miss anybody too important, but if I did, then that's kind of an indictment of their character as well, right? There were 5 people on this tier list I didn't think really deserved ranking. I mean, we know this person's only here because she kind of looks like Azula. The gangsters, I don't really care about. I don't even know who this is, to be honest. And then the announcer from Pro Bending, which I think that's who that is. I could be wrong. I don't have any thoughts about that character. Not really a character, more of just, somebody who moves the plot along. So yes, this is the list of all the characters I'm going to be talking about. This is sort of a companion video to my best of 2025 animated shows video where I talk about Korra for a long time. So this is going to be less about plot and more about characters. All right, so a season can have bad plot and the characters can still work in it. Maybe not season 2, but let us begin. So you'll notice I've got the avatar characters at the end and the main cast from Korra at the beginning. That's fitting, but also I want to save the most interesting stuff for the end, I think. I mean, these guys are interesting too, but I feel like what I have to say about them is not that different from what most people have to say. So starting with Tenzin. For a while there, he's the best character on the show. He carries season 2 on his back. Him and Jinora, I guess. The two of them have something resembling actual character arcs in season 2, which is more than I can say for literally everyone else. But I like Tenzin. He gets to be the voice of reason, and yet, even though he's kind of like a hard ass, you know what I mean? Stick in the mud, however you want to say it. He's still fun. It's fun to watch him on screen, despite him being, not a character that is explicitly fun. The only thing he does that I don't super love is, he doesn't do it, but as part of his character, is the former relationship with Lin Beifong. I thought her name was Jin for half the show because I wasn't watching with subtitles. And then I thought Su Yin was Su Lin. So that's my bad. Anyway, I don't really get anything from that. And I think the show's worse off for it, right? I think it'd be better if these two were just friends. After season 1, it doesn't even really matter. So it seems kind of pointless. But yeah, Tenzin's peak. I would watch a whole show about Tenzin. I'm surprised they never did a Tenzin comic. Bolin, hey, guess what? Also peak. Almost entirely because of season 4. He does some kind of fun stuff in season 3. I like his relationship with Gazan, as small as it is. But that little wink at the end and him being, not bad, kid, that does it. His sort of failure to learn metal bending and then getting to do lava bending, learning something his own way. That makes sense for his character, and I like that. What makes even more sense for his character, considering what happens in season 1 and season 2, is totally buying into something that is absolutely evil, and yet he just cannot see any of the bad stuff that's happening. I mean, obviously Varric comes to mind. I think it's a very weird decision to have one of the main characters star in propaganda films, and then we never really touch on it. We learn that Varric's a bad guy, and Bolin defeats him, but we don't actually say maybe making propaganda films is a bad idea. Or starring in a propaganda film anyway. And then in season 1, he's got literally nothing to do. He's just there to fill out the pro bending team and give Mako someone to talk to occasionally. It's very unfortunate. So yeah, it's basically entirely off of season 4. I like the way he interacts with Varric in season 4. It actually makes him feel like he's got more than 0 brain cells, if that's what I can say. I like that he gets to be the hero a little bit for once. Like, obviously he's been heroic before, but usually it takes a really long time for him to decide to do something right, you know? So it's nice that in this scenario, Varric and him play off of each other, where Varric obviously is the one who's always looking out for himself, and Bolin actually gets to be heroic. That's nice. I guess season 3, we did get a little bit of character development with the family, but like not as much as I would hope, you know? So yeah, it's basically season 4. Season 4 sold me on Bolin. It's a really great Bolin story, which is kind of crazy considering it's the end of the show. But I think they balance it well enough with a really great Korra story. Unfortunately, I don't think I can put Korra in peak. I do really like what they do with her in season 4. The problem is it's too little too late, to be honest. Like, Bolin is more or less the comedic relief character. Him having an arc near the end of the show is fine. But Korra is the main character. For her first, like, good arc to come at the end of the show is a bit sad. I don't really care for her a lot in season 1. Although I care for her a lot more there than I do in season 2. And in season 3, she's good, but she doesn't grow at all. She's still like season 1 Korra. In season 2, she's worse than season 1 Korra. In season 3, she's basically season 1 Korra. And I get what they were trying to do with her, right? I mentioned this in the ranking video, where it seems like they're setting her up because she's an older avatar. She's already learned 2 of the 4 elements other than her original one, water. And like, even as a baby, she could still like use all the elements to some degree. Like, she's a prodigy. And that can actually work, because Aang was also a prodigy, just only in airbending, because they didn't tell him he was the Avatar until much later. And he lived in air nomad society, so I guess, you know. I think it could actually work really well if she was born in Republic City, to be honest. Like, I know, you know, it makes sense for her to be born in the Southern Water Tribe. It connects Korra to the original Avatar, and Katara, and all of this stuff. But it would make a ton of sense if she was born in Republic City, and the reason why she learned the other bending styles so quickly is because she's around other benders that do, you know, fire bending and earth bending. She's not just in water bending land. The only problem there would be, of course, Air Temple Island is also in Republic City, but, you know, she has a mental block with airbending anyway, so that could still have worked. And I don't mind the idea of her starting off being super brash. It's a good contrast to Aang. The problem is they don't develop her out of that for way too long. And I think they did, which is the weird part. Because, like, in season 1, Korra is bashing her head into every problem, right? She's just trying to beat it down with force. And at one point, you know, Amon defeats her. And then after that, she goes on this string of defeats where she can't win anything, right? They lose the bending championships. She loses to Amon. She can't even fight off, like, one of the chi blockers without Tarlok's help. And, like, you'd think that would trigger something in her to say, okay, I need to take my training more seriously, as some sort of character arc. But it doesn't. She just keeps charging headfirst into everything for the entire season. At the end is rewarded for that, which feels very strange. And it's not fun to watch her lose either, because I don't hate her. Like, she's still a good person who wants to do good for the city. It's just like, it just feels bad in general. In season 2, she's knocked out of the season for like half of it to go do Avatar Wand stuff, which was not the best idea for sure. And And then the final battle isn't even really between her and Unalaq. Like, they have a very short confrontation in the spirit realm at the end of the season. But then they just become big kaijus, and it really doesn't feel like they're fighting each other anymore. It feels like we are seeing like Rava and Vatu fight each other. It doesn't help make her more interesting at all. Season 3, okay, finally we've got something going on. At least Zahir challenges her in a way that's interesting. Like, when she loses to Zahir, or like when Zahir tricks her, specifically I'm thinking about that spirit realm scene, right? Or the one where they almost kidnap her in Zaofu, and everybody has to, like, fight to get her back. That feels like it has stakes, and it feels like, as the season goes on, Korra is justified in being a little afraid of Zahir. I like that, and a lot of that is just because Zahir is a way better villain than Amon or Unalaq. He's able to actually, like, say something about Korra, whereas the other two really aren't. And by the end of the season, I mean, well, okay, at the very end of the season, she's changed. She hasn't changed too much at the end of season 3, and yet it still feels like I like her character a lot more just because the rest of the season around her is better written. And then in season 4, she finally gets an arc about confronting, you know, her fear of Zahir and, to a lesser extent, the other villains, because I don't really care about them. Spoilers for the rest of the video, I guess. But she's specifically holding herself back. She's got a mental block about not wanting to have to keep fighting forever. And I like that. I like that there's a little interpersonal drama where she doesn't trust her friends, who honestly, I wouldn't trust to talk about these issues with these issues either. Like, especially Mako. But hey, Mako and Bolin, they're just, you know, they don't have the emotional intelligence. And to be honest, I don't know if Asami does either, because we barely see anything from her up until season 3, but whatever. At least that's something, right? It drives a little conflict. They get rid of it way too easily, but whatever. She has to fight her inner demons, quite literally. And yeah, I like this season. I like that getting the poison out of her wasn't the end of it either. Like, it actually was something she had to overcome internally, you know? Not just, oh, there's still a little bit of poison left in you. Oh, ho, ho. It's good. I like it a lot. And it's a real shame that that's when the show ends, because I would love to see, like, a further expanding on Korra's character. And, in fact, I even had to, after the end of season 4, I was like, okay, I have to see more. Like, I know there are comics out there. I mean, they're graphic novels more than comics, but whatever. I have to see more. I have to see what comes next. And unfortunately, those did not scratch any itch in terms of actual character development for Korra. They're very surface level. Not even really worth talking about, to be honest. Specifically, the ones that I read were Turf Wars and something of the Empire. I can't remember what it is now. Yeah, I only have Twilight of the Empire, which is definitely not what it is. I think that's Star Wars. Anyway, it's just sad that we end the show with Korra at her most interesting instead of, like, having a conclusion that feels satisfying to her character, you know? And because of that, I feel like I have to put her a little bit lower. Like, Bolin and Tenzin, they've both gone through arcs and they've actually concluded and feel satisfying. Korra's is a little bit less so. The stuff they do with her is cool, and I do like her as a character. I don't think the show would work without her. Everything is, like, you know... I mean, she is the main character, but even so, you can definitely feel her absence in Season 2 and how it causes everything to sort of fall apart. So yeah, that's my thoughts. I really do like Korra. It's a shame. I was going into this worried I wasn't going to like her, and I do, and unfortunately that's worse because the show doesn't like to use her very well. Let's talk about Asami first. I have so much to say about Mako. None of it's good. Asami, unfortunately, as much as I like Asami, they just give her nothing to do ever. Even in season 1 is like, okay, where she's got this relationship with her father who turns out to be kind of a bad guy. And then, you know, she immediately turns on him and fights him. Okay. but like it doesn't feel that weighty because we never really see that much between the two of them to make us believe that they're like really close, even though they keep saying like, I love my dad, he was so cool and awesome and I wish he wasn't evil. We just don't see that much. Like, we don't see them together enough. Honestly, I feel like we see Mako and Hiroshi together more, which is not helping. And then for the rest of the show, she's just kind of hanging around in the background, if she's lucky. In season 2, she's barely even there. In season 3, they try to give her something a little bit more to do. She's like actually part of the main group and on their adventure. But she more or less just serves as like Korra's person to talk to, and that's it. She doesn't have much going on her own. And then in season 4, they try to do some arc about her making up with her dad. But again, that relationship isn't strong enough for me to really care. And then at the end, her and Korra sort of get together. I actually thought this show ended more concretely with them getting together. But I mean, it's a little ambiguous, which I guess, unfortunately, was the studio mandated style at the time. I do think they play off each other's characters very well. Like, I'm not surprised that these two are like a popular ship or whatever in fan works. It's just a little sad that I don't feel like Asami really has that much going on. And what she does have going on is making weapons of war, which is like, why would you choose that to be her one character trait? I don't know. It's weird. All right, Mako. Are you guys prepared? I hate this guy. I feel a little unjustified in hating this guy, but oh man. Okay, so the story likes to act like Mako's like a second main character. They give him a bunch of side plots, doing stuff on his own. They gave him a whole comic book that I didn't read because I do not care about him. And like I said, Bolin basically exists just to give Mako somebody to talk to. The problem is Mako is so supremely uninteresting. Okay, let me explain. So in season 1, Mako is more or less just Korra's love interest. He has backstory that could be interesting. He's an orphan who's always had to take care of Bolin. He's a professional sports player and like the team leader of that team. And even like his relationship with Asami and Hiroshi could be interesting. They just refuse to let it be. Mako's always got to be there to make the right choice or whatever. Except, of course, in the case of his relationships, where he is so willing to... I mean, it's not really cheating, but it basically is. He's so willing to just smooch anybody who gets within smooching distance. It's a bit of a problem. And I wouldn't be so hard on him for that because it's like, okay, whatever. They're trying to do a teenage drama thing, right? This is a show for teenagers. They're trying to do a teenage drama thing. The problem is later there's a clip show episode, okay? And in that episode, which I'm glad I watched because I almost skipped it, but I was interested to see what they would do for a clip show for Korra because, I don't know, seems hard to sort of sum up everything that happens because there's so much happening all the time that there's like barely time for the characters to breathe. In this clip show, Mako shows no remorse and in fact tries to justify his actions, saying like, oh, well, you know, me and Korra, we were broken up. And it's like, okay, but, you know, when Korra came back, you guys, like, for some reason, Prince Wu is the voice of reason. I should have added him to this list. Maybe I will at the end. And he's like, I don't know. Why didn't you just tell her right away? I don't know. It would have been awkward and hard. And poor Asami when he's like pretending he's still dating Korra, even though he just kissed Asami like 2 episodes ago. And that really made me hate him. You know, like before that, I didn't like him. I was like, he feels kind of pointless. I don't know what his point is, but that made me hate him. Like, how am I supposed to enjoy his interactions with the rest of the characters if he's, like, literally convincing himself that, you know, he's never done anything wrong and doesn't have anything to apologize? It's bad. Also, just, like, cool factor-wise, he's the only one of them that doesn't get a unique bending gimmick. Asami is a non-bender, but she gets the glove and sort of like has that mechanicalness to her that is unique. Korra is the first metal bending avatar, and also she's able to use the elements a lot more fluidly than Aang, so her fight scenes definitely have a lot going on. And Bolin can lava bend. Mako doesn't get any special ability. He can lightning bend, which, okay. But we saw so much lightning bending in like the original Avatar, it just doesn't feel special. When he like attacks Amon in the final battle with lightning bending, or he defeats Minghua with lightning bending, it doesn't feel that like, whoa, that's so cool. It's like, oh yeah, of course. And they give him the worst side plot in season 2, where he has to he joins the police force for one, which is like a kind of a crazy direction to take his character. Like, if anything, I think he'd be the one who would stick to sports, not Bolin. Anyway, he becomes a detective, and he's trying to figure out who blew up this building. I don't care. I really don't. They don't put very much stakes onto it. Like, okay, if he's a detective and, like, I don't know, Asami gets kidnapped and Korra isn't there because she's in a coma halfway across the world, and he's trying to find her and save her. Honestly, that's kind of a fun character arc for him because, you know, that's his ex-girlfriend and they're being all awkward around each other. I would like that. That'd be cool. And it would give him a chance to say, like, you know, I still care about you, Asami. I'm sorry for everything that happened. It's just, I'm sorry it didn't work out. And she would go, yeah, it's okay, Mako, I know. Thank you for saving me. And then in season 3, it wouldn't be so awkward that he's like, hi, guys. I'm not going to apologize for anything I've done to both of you, but I'm going to stick around anyway. You guys need me, right? And then in season 4, he gets to be Prince Wu's bodyguard. And that might be his best role, because Prince Wu is honestly kind of a good character. Surprisingly enough, Prince Wu is a better character than Mako, the main character. Print it. I hate this man. Why did they put him in the show? And why did they treat him like he's the main character? Okay, this is also something I hate, okay? It's maybe a little irrational. But in the final episode of the show, in like the final post-final battle scene where we're sort of getting the wrap up for everybody, Korra gets to talk to Asami and Mako, but not Bolin. Bolin, who had the biggest character arc in this season, and the two of them who, like, honestly don't have that, like, strong of a relationship with each other, so it would have been nice to sort of cap off the relationship in a way that would make it seem like, you know, they're actually friends with each other. Instead, it's Mako. And Mako essentially finally apologizes in the last 5 seconds of the show. He's like, I'm sorry everything was always so weird between us. I hope we can be friends forever. I'll always have your back. You're too little too late, man. What the hell? Oh, I hate it. I'm sorry. I'm going to stop ranting about him now, but it's bad, okay? Okay, wait, one last thing. Because I was going to talk about it with Minghua, but, you know what, I'll preface it now just because people are probably writing comments. I actually do think that the scene where he electrocutes her is well done in a fighting style sense. Like, within the action scene, it's well paced. It's just not exciting. It's something we've seen before. That's all I'm saying. Okay, Naga. How could they ruin the Avatar pet idea? I can't believe it. Okay, they didn't ruin it. Naga's still cute or whatever. But, like, Korra is constantly just leaving Naga somewhere else. It doesn't really feel like the same as Aang and Appa, which it doesn't have to be the same. But if you're going to have this animal companion thing, maybe give us a reason why we should care about their relationship. It's a dog. That should be so easy. But unfortunately, no. That doesn't really happen. Like, the dog has a saddle and everything, and I feel like Korra uses Naga as, like, a ride, like, 5 times in the whole show or something. Like, it barely ever happens. I don't know. It's weird. Surprisingly, Pabu, which is the other pet on the team, the Momo pet, is perfectly fine, I think. I buy Bolin and Pabu's relationship. Pabu comes in and saves Bolin multiple times, which makes sense because Bolin like trains Pabu to do stuff. So it makes sense that Pabu would be able to do stuff. And I don't know, it's cute. It serves its purpose in the story. Good job, Pabu. Tano. I mean, I didn't add him to the list. I also only remember his name because I had to look it up. I was like, what is that guy's name? Because he shows up in the final episode, and I'm like, I never realized how much this guy looks just like Asami. This guy could be like Asami's brother, and I would not be surprised. Anyway, for the rival of the entire sort of bending sports arc in season 1, you would hope he would be more interesting, like he would have some sort of relationship with the fire ferrets beyond just thinking they suck. And then he loses his bending. And the worst part is, like, he's a jerk the entire time. There's nothing redeemable about him. He loses his bending, and then we're supposed to feel sorry for him. No! Bad. Show would be better off if he was, like, somebody else, somebody more important. Like, if Mako and Bolin were on different teams or something, and Korra had to decide which team to be on, and then they faced off in the finals, and I don't know, something else happened. I don't know. It feels like the person they're facing in the finals should be someone we have a stronger relationship with than we literally just met them last episode. Speaking of Pema, or speaking of Bland and Forgettable, rather, Pema, they try to give her something to do in season 4, so that's nice. Other than that, she basically just exists. Honestly, like, she could not be in the story, and I wouldn't even notice. It's a little sad. Also, the baby. The baby has basically nothing to do with the story either. Like, they sort of try to use the baby as dramatic tension in season 1, because Pema's having the baby while the temple's being attacked. But, like, everything works out fine. There's, like, no complications from that, other than, I guess, the kids have to fight. I don't know. But they were probably going to do that anyway. This is an Avatar show. It's made for children. Well, I guess this one's made for teenagers, but, you know. Okay. These kids should definitely be in the other order. Not a fan of Fart Child. Sorry, I know. How sad. Even when they try to give Milo a character arc later, it doesn't hit for me. He's just too annoying. Iki. She kind of seemed like she was going to be the main one for a little while, and then she completely fades out of existence when Jinora gets her bigger role in season 2. And they try to bring her back and give her something to do. I think her episode in season 4 is fine, to be fair, but overall, like, eh. And then Jinora is fine. I don't know. I guess she is memorable. Like, that last scene where she gets her tattoos in season 3 and, like, Korra's in the wheelchair does hit pretty hard. But that's more because of Korra, I think. Korra and Tenzin. Jinora's fine. She works as, like, a child character and for someone to Tenzin to bounce off of in that way. I think her spirit powers are a little bit poorly set up. Like, because they kind of set it up within the episode, they introduce it as, like, she has imaginary friends she's always talking to, which you definitely could have set up earlier, you know? But they don't. At least not that I noticed. Maybe it's in the background or something, but it's never really brought attention to as far as I can tell. And her spirit powers are fine, but, like, she's just, like, the damsel in distress twice in a row. And then in season 3 and 4, she kind of just exists. But whatever. She serves her purpose, you know? She's not a super important character, and so it doesn't act like one. And thank goodness. Because that's the problem with some of these people that are in the lower tiers, is they're not super important, but they sure act like they are sometimes. Iroh. I'm surprised I remembered his name, because I don't remember Zuko's other child's name. She's the Fire Lord, and I don't even know her name. She barely shows up. To be clear, if there are any Korra lovers in the audience, I do like this show. It's just I've organized these characters by season. So we're in season 1, which is the most bland and forgettable, and we're about to enter season 2, where things get bad. Okay, so we're gonna round the corner soon. Trust me. I don't know why they're in the show. Iroh, they're constantly threatening that Iroh might do something, and then he never does. It'd be nice if, like, just once he could fight alongside Korra. I thought in season 4 they were finally gonna let him, do something. No. I don't get it. Okay, now we're into what I like to call the Amon red herrings section of the video, because season 1 really needs us to have a bunch of people who we think could be Amon, because that's the whole mystery. When really it should be like 2 of these people and be one of them, when it is actually not any of these people. Okay. Saikon. Story be better off without him. He serves basically no purpose. Tarlok might as well have just taken over the police himself and been like, oh, it's an emergency. Sure, when the problem with the Equalists dies down and we're under martial law, sure, I'll let the powers go. But of course he's not going to do that, because his whole goal is to take over the city. That would make sense. But no, we got this random guy who barely matters and has no resolution. Like, I don't think we ever even fight him or anything. Like, he gets magnetized in the final battle trying to protect Tenzin, and that's it. Hiroshi Sato. Okay, he at least, I think, achieves his purpose. Maybe not with his relationship with Asami. That feels a little underbaked, but at least it's something to make him interesting. And I do like that he's straight up a villain. I like that. I kind of expected there to be some twist where it's like, oh, he was holding my company hostage or something like that. If he wasn't going to literally just be Amon himself, which of these fake Amon candidates, I think he is the best of them to have. If he was actually Amon, it would be pretty satisfying, right? It would make him coming back and saving the day against Kuvira actually pretty full circle, right? Because Kuvira is a bender trying to exert her will over the people of Republic City. If Amon came back and stopped her by sacrificing himself, it'd be interesting. It would, say something about him as a character. But no, he's just like a billionaire guy who surprisingly wants to support the upcoming dictator. Who would have thunk? Anyway, yeah, sure, he's fine. Tarlok. This is a tough one, because part of me wants to put him here. And part of me wants to put him here. So I guess I'll split the difference. Also, pretty crazy to have Tarlok, Tonrok, and Unalok right one after another. For a long time, I kept calling him Tonrok because that name just stuck in my head better. And then for a brief moment when season 2 began, I thought Unalok was him. And I was like, what? How is he back? I thought he exploded. No, he did explode. I guess I'll talk about his dad at the same time. I think this makes sense. I do not remember his name, to be clear. So the basic story is, this is his dad. He's a super awesome bloodbender that Aang fought back in the day and defeated, and then he trained his 2 kids to try to essentially take over Republic City and kill the Avatar. Sure, that works. That's fine, I guess. Tarlok being the super powerful bloodbender, I mean, I guess Amon also is, but he doesn't use it until the very end of the show. It's fine. I think the reason I want to put him in Story Be Better Off Without Them is because I think it would be better for this story of this father essentially trying to abuse their child into being a weapon for them, would be better if Tarlok was not involved. If... did I just call him Tonrok, by the way? Tarlok. I don't remember Amon's actual name. Anyway, if Amon was the only child of this guy and turned out to be like this, that would be, I think, a little bit more prescient. That they both turned out sort of evil and wanting to take over the city is kind of silly, in my opinion. Like, if you wanted him to be like, okay, I'm a power-hungry dictator, fine. But why do you have to make him related to these two? Because they're supposed to be on polar ends of the spectrum, right? And maybe, you know, they're brothers. You could say something about that, but you don't really. And I hate, okay? I hate how they humanize him in the story and are like, I'm so sorry, Tarlok. I have a totally different perspective on you. Maybe you're a good guy now. It's bad. It's really bad. Did you forget he put you in a metal box, Korra? Even if we, the audience, can feel bad for him, Korra should still hate him, okay? Especially because she's Korra. Headstrong Korra, remember? Yeah, I don't know. I think the story would be better. That story would be better off without him. The actual overarching conflict between benders and non-benders, I think he works well within that role as being like an agitator who's trying to grab at power due to the, you know, circumstance that he finds himself in. That's fine. I just wish he wasn't related to the other part. So I'm splitting the middle. I'm splitting the difference, okay? This guy, he's fine. Mustache Man. I don't remember if he actually has a name. I'm sure he does, but like in the show. He's just a mini boss for Korra to beat up. My only problem, this is more so with the writing of Korra than with him, is that like it feels like it should be really satisfying that he starts like beating up Korra and then their battles slowly get more and more like slowly closer and closer until eventually she defeats him. It's not really what happens though. It's just like loses dramatically, sort of wins, and then he dies. So cool. Amon. Oh boy. Okay, here we go. Amon is fine. Amon is fine, okay? I don't really like his backstory, but his actual presence in the main plot is good. I don't really care for him, like, actually militarily taking over the entire city. That feels kind of silly. But the intimidation factor of him and his ability to take people's bending away are both very cool. His design is great, and the idea of him trying to destroy all benders is interesting. I just don't think it's that well paid off. Because he doesn't really have any ideas. You know? His only plan is destroy all benders. And so any sort of sense of intrigue about, oh, well, maybe he's got a point is completely watered down. Like, if he was like, we should... okay, here's just a random pitch, okay? We bring Asami's father into it and say Asami's father has been wanting to create technology that can allow benders to fulfill the roles, non-benders to fulfill the roles that benders traditionally could, right? Like, for example, when Iroh's ships roll into town to fight Amon, they're still using fire-bending cannons, despite the fact they have, like, cars and radios, and it doesn't really make sense why they wouldn't have invented regular guns at this point, right? Unless they were being purposefully stifled by, say, a council of benders who is afraid that bending will become, you know, obsolete. So maybe he's got some point about him and Hiroshi are trying to work together to create weapons that non-benders can use to combat benders, which I guess is kind of what the mech suits are supposed to be, but like, that's kind of a lame way to do that, and also Amon never particularly states that out loud. You know what I mean? Or like even he wants to get into power to change the laws, some oppressive law that we learn about in the show, but that doesn't exist either. So really he's just kind of like, I want to get rid of all benders for the sake of non-benders. But if he wanted to be a villain who just wanted to get rid of all benders, I don't think you need the whole like non-bender revolution part. You really don't. Especially the way they portray him in the show. It feels like it would be a lot more succinct and interesting if he was just a guy who knew about everything we learn about in season 2 with Avatar 1 and said like, people were supposed to return bending to the lion turtles, and they didn't. Like, you know, they stole bending from the spirits, and so I want to get rid of bending because the spirits have told me to. That'd be cool. He'd be wrong, probably. Like, you know, whole societies have formed off of this, and also the lion turtles, as we find out, did basically just give people bending powers willingly at the end. But it would be an interesting conflict, okay? It's just not that. So he's fine. Not great. And that's the best I'll give him. President Raiko. This is sort of like and I blame season 2 for this and not season 1. This is their way of resolving, quote unquote, the plot with the Equalists. Oh, well, now there's a non-bender in charge of the city, so everything's fine. Benders have nothing to say about that? Okay, whatever. That's more just season 2 doesn't want to deal with anything to do with season 1 and wants to do its own thing. And its own thing is bad. But Raiko as a character works, okay? He's fine. He serves as a fine enough obstacle to Korra, and especially in season 4, I like that he is so hesitant to act that he doesn't want to recreate the situation that led up to the 100 Years' War. So he's so hesitant to act that he essentially gives Kuvira everything she needs to destroy Republic City, and then he just surrenders, right? It's an interesting breakdown of like how the 100 Years' War could have happened in this world, which I like. Tonrock. Who? He has one cool fight scene, and the other fight scene he exists in, he falls off a mountain, and that's about it. I really have not much to say about him, or Korra's mother, who, I don't remember her name. She talks to Korra once about, like, we're trying to do everything we can for you, honey, but, you know, you're barely eating. And, like, that's the only sort of strong character moment she has. Kind of sad, to be honest. It kind of feels like Korra's an orphan for most of the show. Like, these two matter so little. And a part of that, I think, is because they're made important in season 2, where nothing is that well done. Unalaq. God, I wish Unalaq was not. Oh. Okay. I have a similar Mako-esque rant to go on about Unalaq. Are you ready? In season 2, they set up this primary conflict. In season 1, the primary conflict is like pure safety versus pure freedom, basically. It's like, should we, you know, lock people down and try to keep everything the same forever? This is like tackled with Tenzin and Lin and just the overall conflict between Amon and Tarlok, right? Season 2 starts and establish its main conflict as like progress versus tradition. Should we continue the traditions of the past for their own sake, or should we, you know, allow progress to creep in even when it might encroach on those traditions? And Tonrock, rather, is sort of set up as the guy that is fine with progress happening, right? Whereas, like, with Varric, I guess, also playing that part. And Unalaq is set up as the guy saying, no, we should, you know, keep the South pure, and return to our traditional roots. The problem is that conflict doesn't really work in the rest of the season. One, because Tonrock's barely a character, and Varric kind of takes up the role as being the guy representing progress over, like, you know, any preservation of culture. And they're both villains. So is the answer that the show is providing to us that things should just stay the same? That we should, like, try to thread the needle between these two things? Well, not really. Because at the end of the season, Korra opens the spirit gate and lets the spirits back through. In other words, she is, you know, kind of agreeing with Unalaq. And then in season 3, the spirit wilds are like overrunning the city. And Raiko represents, again, this argument of progress, right? He's like, oh, these spirit vines are destroying our city. We need to do something about them. And Korra's like, whatever, just deal with them, eventually. It's just very confused. I don't know. I guess you could maybe make an argument that her opening the spirit gates is breaking tradition because Juan set those up 10,000 years ago. But, like, I don't know. It doesn't really make sense. And so Unalaq is playing the bad guy in this conflict that the season isn't really sure what it's doing with. And what that amounts to is he's barely in the show. And then at the end, he doesn't even really have that much interesting to say to Korra. And then he becomes a big monster that Korra beats. Unalaq just sucks. There's, like, nothing interesting or redeemable about him. It's bad. I forgot until like the very end of the season that he was Korra's uncle. They introduced that early on, and then by the end of the season, I literally forgot they were family members. It's crazy. I'm gonna assume this is Eska, and this is the I don't remember. That's not a great sign. The brother is bland and forgettable, for sure. At least Eska, I think, serves her purpose. She's a fun little mini-boss, and I think her scenes with Bolin are actually funny. It's one of the only times I actually find Bolin funny in Season 2. And I guess it's because he's a little annoying, so it's fun to see him get punished. I don't know. I do kind of like that the two of them get swept up in the moment at the end of the season. I kind of wish they got to interact one more time after that in the show. But these two kind of just disappear after one fight scene in Season 3. Season 4, honestly, did disappear a lot of characters. It's a little odd. It definitely feels like it didn't think it was the last season of the show, and I don't know if that's true or not. Like from the writing room and like the team, like if they were told they got another season and then they didn't, I don't know. You guys can fill me in on that in the comments. I know the show was put under a lot of pressure from Nickelodeon in ways that don't really make a lot of sense. And like the last season was released primarily on like an app nobody used. So I know that this show got fucked with is basically what I'm saying, but I don't know to what extent, basically. But yeah, these two, there's not much to say about them. They're just like either funny or feel kind of pointless. Kaya and Boomy. Okay. Kaya and Boomy. Okay. So Boomy is annoying, but at least they give him something when he learns airbending in Season 3. At least he's like got something going on. And I think him and Tenzin carry the argument in Season 2 the best. Kaya feels like she's kind of just there. So I think he achieves his purpose. It's kind of bizarre that he gets basically written out of the story in Season 4 again. Like I said, it's a bit odd. I think one of the problems that Legend of Korra has is they just introduce too many new characters. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. That's what I'm saying, okay. Kaya. Kaya's got the opposite problem from Boomy. Kaya's got like a really cool fight scene that's very memorable in Season 3, but her actual like character dynamics with the rest of the group are very unfortunately unmemorable. And she also gets written out of the show in Season 4, which is strange. I really do like her fight with Zahir, though. I was really thinking like, whoa, it'd be crazy if she died here, and then she didn't. I know the show, again, like expecting people to die in this show all the time maybe isn't the most realistic, but they do kill people in Season 3, so I don't know. Feels like it could happen. I think I can put them on the same level. I like Kaya more because her personality is less grating, but she's got less to do. I don't like Boomy as much, but I have to objectively say his character is better served by the narrative. Varric. Varric, in Season 2, is very uninteresting, but at least he's a little funny. In Season 4, I like him quite a bit. I'll just rank Julie at the same time. I think she goes here too, probably. Julie in Season two, like in season 2 and 3, like she doesn't even have a voice actress, I don't think. So it's she's barely a character. But I think she plays well as the comedic sort of like straight man to Varric. So I still think she works in those seasons. And if they didn't come back for season 4, they'd be in Achieves Their Purpose tier. But season 4 gives them both something very interesting to do. Varric gets to actually, have a moral backbone for once. And again, like I said, his relationship with Bolin and the way they bounce off of each other is very, very good for both of them. It's a shame we didn't land on this earlier in the show, like I said. Like, his relationship with Bolin in season 2, it doesn't feel the same. Because Bolin doesn't ever stand up to him. That's the big problem. Anyway, he's fine in season 2, I think. Of all the things introduced there, he's probably one of the better things, which is a little sad because he's not that great, especially as a villain. But yeah, in season 4, he's awesome. Julie, I kind of think, like, it's funny because the way she is, I think she's interesting and memorable. And yet at the same time, I kind of feels like the show would be better off without her. Let me explain. So the role that she takes in season 4 is very important, right? She's like a spy in Kuvira's inner circle that sabotages the weapon that's going to blow up Republic City and very nearly gets killed for it. And at the end of the show, it's her and Varric's wedding that sort of caps everything off. And that just doesn't feel right. Like I said, she doesn't even get a voice actress until season 4. Why are we acting like she was the most important character in the show? Like, okay, this is sort of a false equivalency, but imagine if the group that was working with Kuvira at the beginning was Bolin and Varric and Asami, the same group from season 3, right? Or season 2, rather, who all worked together. And then Asami seemingly betrays the group and becomes the spy. That gives her something to do. It can give some drama between her and Korra, where she, has to pretend to actually be a turncoat, and it develops their relationship, which doesn't happen at all in season 4, really. Despite that really being, like, she's on the cover of season 4 and she barely has anything to do. And then, Varric and Bolin can have to deliver the bad news about her joining the other side. Korra can rescue her from the village. It would be better, right? If Julie's role was taken by a more important character. Like, it doesn't have to be literally a main character either. It could be, somebody from Zhaofu. It could be Opal, for all I care. It doesn't really make sense for it to be Opal within their actual story, but, maybe it's Lin or something. It just feels like sort of a waste to give so much narrative weight to what is essentially a joke character. And it works for Varric because he already had, like, some character depth. Like, he was already a villain in a previous season. So, that's my thoughts. Anyway, I do really like Julie. I want to make it clear. I did really like her in season 4. I just feel like it shouldn't have been her that was taking on that much bigger role. Ginger. Why is she here? I honestly feel the exact same way about Ginger that I do about Julie, except her role in season 2 is not anywhere close to as interesting. She's just an actress that Bolin falls in love with. That could have been anybody. And look, I'm going to say it again. What if, in season 2, what if Asami was playing opposite of Bolin in this propaganda film? And we could actually interrogate their relationship. Seems how they're kind of buddies in season 3, because they supposedly hung out in season 2, even though they really only talked to each other like 3 times. And then you could do the whole thing where, like, Bolin falls in love with her, but she's like, Bolin, it's just acting. And it could further their dynamic for later in the show, instead of this random woman who never shows up again. I don't know. It's just a thought. I don't remember this guy's name, so I'm going to call him Stinky. Seems how he calls Juan Stinky. It feels fair. These two, Stinky and this guy, who plays opposite of Stinky in the spirits versus humans part of Avatar Juan's section of season 2, they're fine. They work. I like that they're both like people that we are meant to sympathize with, and then they come into conflict with each other, and we're like, oh damn, they're both kind of right. What will Juan do? And the answer is like kind of nothing, but whatever. The actual conflict between those two characters is fine. This guy, he serves to exposit about what happens if a spirit possesses you shortly. And that's it. I don't think we really needed him. I think we could have figured that out when the guy exposits it literally later. This is another pet tier character. It's fine. It's cute enough. I buy that Juan and this thing would have a relationship, considering Juan saves its life. And honestly, you know, comes in handy for Juan way more than Naga ever does to Korra. So I think this guy is like the emperor of the lion turtle that Juan is living on in this section. I think. Maybe he's like the guy that Juan goes hunting with. Anyway, not important enough to rank. I would not have put these guys on the list if I had built it myself, to be honest. Avatar Juan. Okay. Now we get into some of the controversial takes, okay? These ones might be controversial. I think Juan is honestly pretty good in his story. He's not like the best character or anything, but I like that he struggles to balance the world. I like that he dies a failure. Feels very, you know, telling about the Avatar cycle, right? Every Avatar who's ever existed has died unable to bring balance to the world forever, right? The world always eventually falls out of balance. That's the whole point. And I think it could really say something to Korra, someone who's struggling so hard, especially in like season 3 and 4, with this idea that the world keeps falling out of balance, and like she's tired of having to constantly fix things. I think this story could really touch her at that moment, and really develop her character, but instead it's in season 2 where nothing matters. So I think Juan is fine. It's just, you know, utilized maybe a little poorly in terms of when the story is told. Rava and Vaatu. Okay. I mentioned this in the ranking video, I think. I don't hate the concept of Rava and Vaatu. I think a spirit of good and a spirit of evil is perfectly within the bounds of Avatar's lore, at least within the original show. Maybe in the the comics, it's like expanded upon more, but like we know that Karuk was fighting dark spirits, so we know there are dark spirits, right? The problem is they're just utilized really poorly. Rava comes off as aloof and unfriendly. I never feel like her and Juan have a decent bond, you know? Which is annoying. And Vaatu, he's fine, I guess. The way that he's used as like a MacGuffin for Unalaq sucks. Like, Vaatu could very easily be the actual whole villain of this story. Like, okay, again, I'm going to pitch something to you here to make you... And I do this not to say, like, I'm better at writing than the people who wrote this show, but rather just to show you that interesting things can be done with these two. And it's just the implementation in Season 2 that sucks, just like a lot of things in Season 2. Vaatu is evil, right? Rava is good. They're also like order and chaos and light and dark, but going with the most simplistic and boring thing for them to be, evil and good. You could very easily have Unalaq not be a full-on villain. Like, he's just a guy, right? A guy with opinions. And you could have Vaatu from his chamber, which is the Tree of Time, by the way. So you could very easily say that, like, Vaatu, this whole time, he can't directly affect the world and, like, turn it into an evil hellscape, but he whispers He whispers sweet nothings. And people who have, weak hearts or like have a desire to change the world, and Vaatu thinks he can, convince them to do his bidding, can hear those whispers. And Unalaq is the most recent example, because he's so in touch with the spirits, right? And so Unalaq slowly is sort of like, he buys into Vaatu's lies about how the world should return to chaos, and about how progress has made humanity soft and will cause their eventual extinction or something. And then he becomes the villain of the show, but at the end realizes that what Vaatu is saying is wrong and tries to fight him. And then Vaatu just like invades his body like a parasite, and Korra has to kill him, essentially. Sure, that's something that adds some stakes to the story, you know? And it could feed into the whole thing of these two feeling more like spirits and less like characters. Because the thing with spirits, especially in this show, like Korra, is that they're supposed to represent something, right? They're supposed to also, like, most of the spirits hate humanity, or at least have a distaste for them. So it would be, I think, interesting if Rava and Wan kept disagreeing, but Rava was always telling Wan things that would, bring the world to peace, even if peace was, achieved through means like you have to wipe out all the humans in this area, or something like that. Whereas Vaatu's like, yes, we can take down the evil Earth Queen or something, and the poor, unfortunate souls in the Earth Kingdom will bring themselves a new age of chaos but freedom. Something. They just don't do them. So if they're gonna be like they are, you might as well just not have them. All right. Kai, fine. Very little to say about Kai. He's fine. He's a good enough, like, damsel in distress in season 3. And that's basically it. Aiwei, also fine. I added him to the list because I wanted to say, this is, like, the most textbook perfect implementation of, like, a villainous character this show does. He is, like, a minor villain, let's say. Like, comparing Aiwei to this guy, there's an obvious difference, right? He feels somewhat intimidating, and yet he's not, a physical threat to Korra necessarily. He's a cerebral one. He's smart, a thinker. And then he gets betrayed by the bad guy for being a loose end, and he never sees it coming. Ironic, isn't it? I like it. Okay, we're into the Zaofu crew. We're getting close to the end here. I have a lot to say about basically all these characters after the Zaofu crew, to be clear. Lin. Okay. I have very complicated feelings about Lin. On the one hand, I think she gets way too much screen time for who she is. Like, she's not that important, guys. At least not until, like, season 3. Where, okay, I understand why she's important to season 3. But in season 1 and 2, she's got way too much to do for where she is in the story. I also think, surprisingly, her relationship with Toph doesn't get touched on until season 4. And there it's really interesting, but it's only for one scene. It's very odd. I don't know. I feel like she should have been our window into what Toph has going on earlier than she is. And yeah, I guess she's fine. I do like the acupuncture scene, to be clear. Although it is kind of funny to have it be acupuncture instead of, like, I don't know, some sort of, like, chakras thing, considering that's basically what the same scene was in the original Avatar. And her having blocked chakras, well, that would make sense. And I guess maybe the acupuncture is trying to fix those, but I don't know. I think it'd be fun to see her struggle with meditation more than just, like, getting poked by needles. Even though it's more thematic to the metal land that Zaofu is. Suyin is surprisingly better than Lin, I think. It's probably just because we see less of her. Every time she shows up, she's got something going on that's interesting. And I like that she was sort of like a rebel that has turned into this person very accepting of people who've lost their way. I just wish maybe we went into a little more detail on her feelings about Ai Wei betraying her. Because, you know, let's just say, like, Ai Wei, she introduces him as being somebody who was once, like, her a criminal, right? And she's brought him in to this place because he wants to reform. And then she finds out, no, he never wanted to reform. He was just a bug placed within her city to activate when the Red Lotus needed him to. It would say something, I just think, you know, more interesting than what actually happens, which is she's in disbelief, but we don't really dig into what that means for her, you know? These brothers are honestly bland and forgettable, but I'm glad they're around because the fight scenes do benefit from them being there. The artist guy, also pretty bland and forgettable. He's got one joke that I really laughed at, which was when Zaofu is under siege by Kuvira in season 4, and he's evaluating Iki and Milo's paintings. That one was very funny. Opal. Opal is the epitome of achieves her purpose. In season 3, she's a little boring, but I think she's fine. In season 4, she works perfectly as a way to challenge Bolin and honestly motivate Lin and Suyin. Well, Lin specifically, I guess, because Suyin's in prison, but, you know. It's kind of crazy, because in the comics, she's, like, sort of portrayed as, like, a sister to Kuvira. Like, the two also had a similar sibling rivalry, like Lin and Suyin did. I kind of wish that was actually in the show. It's, like, the one thing that I was like, oh, that's interesting. Baatar Jr. I'm going to be honest, this guy should have blown up. He should have died. In the finale, I'm pretty sure, like I mentioned in the ranking video, they spend way too long fighting the big mech at the end. And I really think, like, the end of the first episode of the finale should have been Baatar and the mech blowing up, and that destabilizing Kuvira's mental state and leading to her being more, like, violent, right? So she'll actually, like, come and face Korra. Instead of just, like, hanging out in a big machine and strategizing the whole time, because that's less fun to watch. Anyway, Baatar Jr. is fine. I like that somebody from Zaofu sort of betrays the group other than just Kuvira. I like that the two of them are sort of in love, and that Kuvira betrays that love because what she truly loves is her empire. And I think he works well bouncing off of Varric and Bolin for the short time that he does. He's fine. He's good. Kuvira. Is Kuvira peak? Almost. She's so close. She's so close to being peak. It's once again just the ending of season 4 unfortunately betrays her. I don't like that she stands down, to be honest. It just doesn't fit her character. And one thing I did learn when I was looking up the comics was that originally they were going to have a backstory scene instead of the clip show episode that would have dug into, like, why Kuvira is the way she is. And maybe if that episode had actually been made, her standing down at the end would kind of, like, come full circle and feel satisfying. But as it stands, it really doesn't. It really feels like she should have, like, blown herself up with the spirit weapon or something, you know? But hey, it's really fun to watch her bend. I like that we have a metal bending villain. It's very cool. I think her plan to reunite the Earth Kingdom makes a ton of sense in terms of a villain motive. And yeah, she's well intimidating. Honestly, she might be my favorite. Okay, she's not my favorite. She might be the best written villain of all 4. But she's not my favorite. So unfortunately, I can't. Well, I will. You know what? I will. She's good. Kuvira's great. It's just a shame, you know, she had to be the final villain of the show because she doesn't really have that much gravitas. Okay, now we're into the Red Lotus guys. I love these people. And that they're great villains, not that they're like right or anything. Minghua is probably the least interesting of the 4, I think. Her bending gimmick is like not that much different than things we've seen before, and we don't get that much of an insight into her character. But she's fine. She serves as a waterbender on Zahir's team. It works. Ghazan. I think Ghazan is a little better than achieves their purpose. Because of just that little wink and nod relationship with Bolin. That just gives him a little bit more going on. But like he's a cool bending guy, and that's really all he has to be. He's basically like this guy as a mini boss, except instead of having to use like batons that are like, okay, that's fine, he gets lava bending, which is, yeah, very cool. Pali. Pali is... I think Pali is also up here. Her being a combustion bender that actually has, you know, speaking lines is nice. And I like, and I think I mentioned this in the other video as well, that she essentially serves as a objective. Like, you have to disable her ability to bend in every battle with the Red Lotus. Otherwise, you're just going to get exploded, right? It's cool. I like it. It really adds a lot of texture to the fights in Season 3. And finally, Zahir, who, yes, I am putting up at the top. He's great. What can I say? He's an airbending villain, something new, something interesting. His desire to essentially rid the world of corrupt governments is, you know, they give enough. Like, okay, I said the same thing with Amon, right? Where it's like, okay, obviously we know that he's wrong, right? Like, you know, especially when he goes after Tenzin, who's like only ever tried to do well by his people. But we know that he's wrong, but the show gives us enough of a reason to sort of sympathize with his idea, right? With the Earth Queen, who honestly I probably should have put on this list too. Her and Wu, but whatever. I'll talk about them during this section. He is very intimidating. Like I said in the other video, I'm pretty sure the only thing I don't really buy from him that feels a little out of character is when he tries to poison Korra. I think if when Pali gets her head exploded, that sent him into some sort of like a rage where like he blames Korra and her group for that, that would make more sense, right? Because before that, he doesn't seem to really care that much about killing the Avatar. If anything, he'd much rather convince the Avatar to side with him. He has some sort of level of respect for the Avatar as a person who creates balance. He thinks balance is total anarchy. He's not trying to like destroy the world. He thinks what he's doing is right, you know? So it kind of makes less sense for him to try to kill Korra at the end, unless like one of two things happen in the story, which they don't necessarily. Either he gets extremely angry after Pali is killed, and entering the void means more than just, you know, letting go of your earthly attachments and being willing to fly or capable of flight, but also, you know, into darkness, like his desire for revenge overpowers his actual motive to save the world in his eyes or whatever. Or Korra directly stops him from doing something that he thinks would have saved people, right? Like she shows to him that she cannot be reasoned with in some way, which I don't think really happens either. It's really my only gripe. Other than that, he's great. And I really like the fights in Season 3, and a lot of it is because these four are just really cool villains. And, you know, it's kind of weird to bring up the fight scenes in a character video, but that is very important to this show, you know? If the show didn't have the super well choreographed fight scenes with a tight magic system and bending, it would not be as popular as it is, right? If people did just have guns and, you know, I don't know, fireball spells and magic wands or something, this would not stand at the same level it does. Okay. This is the Avatar characters. And I think this is where the hot takes get scorching hot, okay? I think. I mean, I don't really know, but I'm pretty sure. Cabbage Guy. No, okay, maybe not peak, but interesting and memorable. They only bring him back for one joke, and it's not really him. It's like his son or something, probably. But the Cabbage Guy creating a company that sells cheap poorly made products, and then it gets shut down by the government in season 1 for its ties with the Equalists, supposedly, and the guy shouting, "No, my cabbage corp!" It's great. It's a great callback, and they only do it once. If they did it more than once, it would be down in the bottom, but they only do it once. That's what makes it good, in my opinion. Zhao's return is also, honestly, peak. Again, this is sort of less about his character in that scene and more about how his character is utilized. But bringing him back just for the, explanation of what the Valley of Lost Souls, or whatever it was called, is perfect. It's also a perfect ironic punishment for him, too. I love it. It's very well thought out. Wan Shi-tong, why are you here? Again, it feels like Wan Shi-tong's return could signal something about Season 2's plot, right? Wan Shi-tong's whole story in the original Avatar was hoarding knowledge and thinking that people are only going to use knowledge for warfare without ever taking a side. You know what I mean? He thinks knowledge is pure and good and everybody should have equal access to it, whether that be everybody having access or nobody having access, because he can't see good and evil. And that does basically make him a villain, because the Fire Nation's trying to destroy the world, dude. Sorry, but, being neutral isn't super helpful, or, it's pretty evil in that situation. And bringing him back could say something in Season 2 about the conflict between tradition and progress, right? Progress is something that Wan Shi-tong does not understand because he specifically tuned out from the world after Aang and Sokka and the rest of the group stole that scroll from him. It could say something for him to say, my pursuit of knowledge is more important than my, desire to hoard it. You know what I mean? Something like that, Like saying, the tradition is still important, but trying to stop other people from carrying on their lives in the way that they feel they should in order to, in some way, force everybody to continue to go through life the way you think they should is a bad idea. I don't know, just a thought. But that's not really what they do. He just shows up, he talks to Jinora, and then he's the bad guy who rats out Jinora to Unalaq, and then he's never seen again. Really did not need to be here. Guys. Okay, hear me out, okay? I think Iroh going to, being able to exist in the spirit world is fine. I think if we saw him once, just like Zhao, if we saw him once and it was just a comforting, oh, Iroh is still, happy, that'd be fine. But he's way too important in Season 2's plot for who he is in this story, If he was just around for that one tea party scene, right? Where Korra is first learning about the spirit realm and he says, oh, hello, Avatar. Look, this teapot used to belong to the previous Avatar. It's one of my most treasured possessions, but I think you should have it. After all, it's yours. And then that sort of comes around in the end in some way. There's some piece of Rava in there or something. That'd be great. It's not what happens, though. He's way too involved. It feels pandering-y, for lack of a better word. Zuko. They just don't really do anything with him. He has one cool fight scene in Season 3, and that's it. I'm so surprised, honestly. Writing Sokka out of the story, fine. It sucks, but sure. Not everybody can be as important as the others. Aang is also dead. Obviously, but they just don't have anything to say about Zuko. Zuko doesn't have really any thoughts about anything that's going on. Korra asked for advice from him one time, and he's like, you should do that thing you said you were going to do. And she's like, thanks, Zuko. That was wise wisdom. I don't know. I just feel like he either could have been way more involved and, said something about his character like Toph, or he could have been way less involved and just been a nice cameo like Katara. Or Sokka. Or Aang. Instead, they try to thread the middle for some reason, and it just ends up not working at all for me. I think Katara is perfectly fine in the show. I am a little bit... It does feel a little odd for her to, like, retire and be a healer, considering everything that transpires in Season 1's finale of Avatar. But, you know, I think she could have been the chief of the South Pole, and that probably would have served her better. I don't know. It feels like that would make more sense. Because, like, you're telling me Tonraq got banished and instantly became the chief of the South? How does that work? But yeah. I think her utilization in the series is fine. Nothing, like, incredible. Aang is also in the same place. I wish we'd seen maybe a little more of him, because I actually think what they do with him is quite interesting. I like the idea that he's not a good father, or, like, you know, a perfect one anyway, and that's his Achilles heel. That the rest of the world loves him and views him as the perfect avatar that saved everyone's lives, and yet his own family is the one weak point where, they actually knew him as a person. They know that he had flaws, and his flaws feel very consistent with the Aang that we see in the original show, you know? He wants to run around and do fun stuff with Tenzin, because Tenzin can airbend just like him, and he hasn't had another airbender in his life for decades, you know? It feels in character. I just wish maybe we would have had a conclusion to that, right? Where at the end, like, Aang could come back and say, you know, something about being the Avatar is that you can't fix everything. And sometimes trying to fix everything, like I did, leads you to neglect the things that are most important. It's really all I needed. To feel totally for Aang to be way higher in this list. Sokka, I'm honestly kind of sad what they did with him. I think it mostly works because they don't make him too important feeling. Like, he doesn't show up and is like, hey, Avatar Korra, nice to see you. Yeah, me and Avatar Aang used to be best buds or something. He's just like in a flashback scene in Season 1 and that's it. And we never even learn what happened to him. Yeah, I don't know. It's fine. But I wish it could have been a little bit more. Sokka deserves better, you know? All right, everyone, take a deep breath. This is our last character to rank. I'm going to briefly talk about Prince Wu and the Earth Queen, actually, first. And it's going to be one you might disagree with. So, I think the Earth Queen is actually probably interesting and memorable. She's a great, like, mini-villain. And she gets killed, which is memorable, for sure. Specifically, the line I will forever remember is the rumor that the Earth Queen ate Bosco. She ate him? No! That's horrible. I like that, you know, I like that she can serve as a villain. She serves her role perfectly in the story, and she is quite memorable. And finally, Prince Wu, I think, kind of goes in peak, to be honest. It's the only time they've written a character like that I've actually liked. I like that, you know, he's like, I'm going to get crowned prince. And then Mako's like, do you even want to be prince? It doesn't seem like you do. He's like, I don't know. It's what I'm doing. And then he doesn't. And he has to sort of figure out who he really is and what he really wants. And in the end, he decides, I just want people to be happy. So let the people decide who should lead them. And it's like, wow, that was a really mature thing you just said. And I agree with Mako for the first time ever. I think he serves his role not only admirably, but is quite memorable as well. Okay. Toph in Korra. Is peak. All right. Hear me out, okay? I know. Toph becoming a police officer is so antithetical to her character. How could I think it was a good idea? Well, let's look at the other characters, right? Sokka, we don't know that much about him, but he's on the Republic City Council, so clearly he did well for himself in his life. Zuko was the Fire Lord. He's retired. He has children who seem to like him. He's got a good relationship with the other leaders of the world. It seems like he's doing pretty well for himself. Aang has a family who sure has complicated feelings about him, but loves him, right? And the rest of the world views him as a hero. And Katara, who's still alive and still able to help people and really do the thing that she cares about most, which is help people. She sort of has taken care of the Avatar and made herself, important still, even in her old age. Toph, she's a hermit who lives in the swamp, and her children hate her. And what I think this says, thematically, is that Toph, because she's so similar in this scene to how she was as a child, whereas everyone else has changed, she was never really able to grow into a role like the others from the group. In a way, Toph failed, which I find so compelling. That out of anybody, it would be Toph, right? Who seems to have everything figured out for the most part. Toph would be the one who ends up being somewhat of a failure. Is interesting. And I think that works so well for her becoming a police officer. Because yes, it doesn't make any sense for her character. It feels like she took on that role to try to be responsible, right? She's like, I have to grow up, get a real job. And she wasn't good at it. The only time we see her, she's exasperated, and she's covering up a crime for her child. And then later she retires in disgrace, basically. Even if nobody else knows about it, it's her own disgrace. Her family, again, like I said, is broken up and they blame her. And I think for a large part, it's because she was trying to force things, right? She never really grew into a role like the others, but she was trying to. And that led her to become chief of police, even though it was something that did not work for her. She would have been much better served just being a teacher or just living a quiet life somewhere, She wasn't a great parent. She wasn't a great police chief. And now she's a hermit. And I love that Korra in season 4 specifically, well, I guess she's in a flashback in season 3, but whatever, is about her redemption through meeting the Avatar again. Because she's not like a bad person, obviously. And the wisdom she gives Korra is good wisdom. And she's still a great teacher. And it's through Korra sort of opening her back up to the world that she's able to reconnect with her family and fix those broken bonds. And going forward, you would get the feeling that, she's not important to the world anymore. She doesn't want to be. That's why she refuses to fight unless, it directly is going to challenge the lives of the people she cares about. Because she's tried to be important for the world before, and it failed miserably. But she's content in the end, just being able to say that, she's raised 2 wonderful daughters, and that is what really matters to her. It's literally like the opposite of Aang in a way, where Aang is beloved by the world, but his children have complicated feelings about him still, and he was never able to work those out because he was too busy doing everything that the world needed him to. Toph's the opposite. She retreated from the world, and because of that, she now has the chance to repair those bonds with her children. It's so well done. I wish it was slightly better explained to us, maybe, because it sucks that most people see this and they just see Toph as a cop, and that's bad for her. Because, yeah, it is. That's kind of the point, I think. When she became a cop, she neglected her family. And then that family broke apart. And it's only now that she's basically let go of all of her connections in the world that she can come back and repair those bonds. It's really, really nice. And I think it's a great story for Toph and a great ending for Toph. That, basically all the other Team Avatar characters don't get. Maybe they will in the upcoming movie. Yay! All right, so that's my list. I might move some people around. I feel like I was overly harsh in a couple places. Like, for example, I think I can probably put Korra up here. Yes, I have some problems with her, but overall, yes. And I can probably put Varric up too, because there is a disparity between Varric and Julie. Jinora, I was flirting with putting her up here before, so I will do that. I don't know if I'm... Okay, maybe Opal. Opal and Lynn definitely stand above the rest of the people in this tier. That feels right. And then... I think everybody else is in the right spot. Maybe I can put Sokka up. Because I think for what little purpose they carve out for him, he does play the part. Yeah. That's how I feel. Let me know in the comments if you think I'm crazy. I think there really is something to be said about how different this show would probably feel to you if you watch it the way I did and didn't watch it necessarily when it came out, when you got an episode every week or, you know, a few episodes every week or something. I don't know how it released, but not all at once, I'm pretty sure. Being able to watch these episodes back to back makes the worse episodes less bad and the best episodes maybe less good. But because Korra is such a like up and downs kind of show where it's got some really high highs and some really low lows, I think that overall smooths out into the show being much more enjoyable. So if it's been a long time since you watch it again. Especially because there's a bunch of new Avatar stuff coming out and you probably want to watch it again anyway. So, yeah. This was very fun. There's still a couple Korra videos I need to make. I did all this so I could make a prediction video for the Avatar Legends fighting game. Because I needed to know enough about Korra to say if any of those characters should have been in. I was legit going to make a video about it and say like, well, Mako and Bolin, I don't think either of them should go in. And now I really want Bolin. Not Mako, though. He can stay out. But yeah. There's still like some stuff I want to do. So look forward to that if you like Korra and you're happy that I've been talking about it. Okay. Bye.